What's going on, everyone? Here to give our personal feedback on the Enhancement Shaman talent tree, now beyond more than just, our first look, first thoughts upon seeing it on the release. This is going to be, a little bit about how we feel about the talent tree in its current state on alpha, now that we've had a chance to play with it a little bit and really, look at it a bit more. So, getting into it, we'll talk a little bit about the core tree, the enhancement tree, first in a PvE sense, and then we'll also talk about it PvP. PvP, it feels a little more constrained with what we have to work with. Keep in mind, none of this is set in stone for the talent trees as it is right now. Some stuff could be changed. Tuning numbers are definitely probably subject to change for sure when it comes to these abilities. But, remember, this is alpha, so a lot of the stuff will change. And also, these are just my feelings on it, right? You guys could agree with what I say or not agree. I'm sure some people will disagree. But getting into it, our core tree, our class base tree, I actually really like overall. I think they did a very good job with this tree in having lots of different paths down to different options. We are on alpha, so we only have so many talent points right now. We're capped at level 62, so we don't have all of our talent points, so we can't go into everything necessarily maybe the way we'd want to. So we've just been messing with a few different things. But from a PvE side of things, we really do have a lot of flexibility in terms of our utility that is at our disposal for Shaman. I've been able to have different situations where Windrush Totem has been a better option for a specific dungeon, or maybe Earth Grab Totem has been a better used tool. Totemic Projection has been very good synergistically with Windrush Totem on a few fights that are very movement intensive. But then there have been times where I drop Totemic Projection and I drop Windrush or Earth Grab, and I end up putting Thunderstorm with the knockup effect, and it just adds another consistent tool for crowd controlling pack pulls here and there alongside Capacitor Totem and Sunder. So having lots of disruption throughout a dungeon has been very beneficial as well to go along with the other options that we've had. Fortunately, things like Hex and Cleanse Spirit aren't necessarily things that you need to have all the time, or Tremor Totem, but there might be certain fights in some dungeons at some points that maybe a fear is a mechanic that you run into, and Tremor Totem is something that you're going to want to spec there for. And we have that flexibility to be able to, take that as an option. And so I really do think that, we will have a lot of different talent loadouts for very specific dungeon situations. So, I think Max said it during his interview with the Shaman players that Shaman might very well have like a different loadout for each dungeon based on what is necessary from a utility standpoint. And I do think that is very likely as well. But as it's currently stood, generally speaking, I'm pretty satisfied with the way our normal class talent tree is at the moment. That being said, getting into the one thing that I do have like a very small problem with, but that this ties into our enhancement tree, is I kind of have a gripe with Chain Lightning being our core forced starting point, being that it doesn't really have anything in our class tree tied into it other than the Maelstrom weapon, right, which is right there, Maelstrom weapon, that's great. Whereas like Ellie, though, Elemental Shaman starts with Lava Burst and Chain Lightning, and then they have like a bunch of talent nodes on their tree that have impact on Lava Burst and Chain Lightning, and all of our effectiveness for both of those is just purely tied into the Maelstrom weapon, right? And so that is nice in its own way, but I think it would have been nice to have seen there be something invested more onto our tree to make Chain Lightning a more impactful option as it stood for our class. If it's going to be our forced starting node point, it almost feels like Frost Shock should be the starting point at times with how impactful and involved Frost Shock is. Frost Shock's practically mandatory of a take if you're running Hailstorm and Ice Strike or anything like that. It's not really an optional talent there, but looking at it, overall, our enhancement tree, I don't really have many complaints for our tree. I think that overall they did a very good job with making our tree feel very impactful and fluid. There's just a few things on our tree that I have problems with, and I think that there's really only 2 true dead nodes on the entirety of the tree, excluding Feral Lunge. Feral Lunge is its own unique situation. I think Feral Lunge could be made more impactful by maybe increasing its damage or adding a slow or a root to it from a PvP perspective, but like it feels kind of lame for a 30-second cooldown targeted movement skill that also does have like a minimum rage on it, when we have like Gust of Wind as an alternative type situation. I just feel like Feral Lunge could be better than what it is, and I don't see a lot of people necessarily taking it other than for just feeling like they need extra movement. But the 2 nodes that I feel like are truly, like, I feel are just dead nodes are Gathering Storms and the Chain Lightning node, the one Chain Lightning node on the entire tree. I'll talk about each one. Gathering Storms is a 2-point investment for a very small buff to Storm Strike, which is a single target skill, and the improved damage of it being something that impacts a single target ability from an AoE skill. And so while these 2 things do technically have synergy, this is the only other alternative pathing down to Feral Spirits. And so I don't see a situation in which people will ever spend 2 points to take Gathering Storms to also then get to Feral Spirits when it's such a lackluster effect that requires a 2-point investment. You're really taking 5% per Crash Lightning target hit. So I mean, you're never going to take Crash Lightning for single target environment, and that would only be a 5%. And even then, let's say you hit 5 targets, 25% damage increase on Storm Strike might be nice, but that's only on a single target damage. If it maybe also improved the cleave damage of the Storm Strike effect, then maybe that could be more impactful. But right now, Gathering Storms it does not seem like it's worth a 2-node investment, and its placement is kind of deterring as an option as well for going to Feral Spirits. Right now, the only real way down to Feral Spirits is going through Hot Hand here. That is what I'm seeing on any build I've made, and as well as most of the builds I've been seeing on the Shaman Discord as well. I just I don't see anybody going through Gathering Storms for it. And then the Chain Lightning node, which is each target hit by Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of Crash Lightning by 1 second. With everything that's going on in the Shaman tree as it currently is, I don't find myself in these dungeons needing to hit Crash Lightning every 5 seconds, right? So it's got 8-second cooldown right here. It's affected by haste and everything like that. But, you have so many other abilities that you have being utilized with, your Stormbringer procs, your Lava Lash procs, your Frost Shock, spending outside of your, after you spend a Maelstrom and after you Ice Strike as well. There's a lot of other things for it to be pressing beyond Crash Lightning. Like, the main benefit of Crash Lightning is getting that buff that comes from it, from hitting more than 1 target, which amplifies your Storm Strike and Lava Lash to add additional cleave damage, which is a 10-second duration. You don't really need to be hitting Crash Lightning more than once every 10 seconds in a lot of situations. It's definitely a good additional chance to generate Maelstrom and also proc Wind Fury, but it's not like I don't see it right now as being like this super vital thing that you need to be hitting it more often. And so I don't really feel like this chain lightning node has that much value to it, especially when the effectiveness of chain lightning right now, maybe this will be different with some tuning, but the damage throughput of chain lightning right now is a bit on the lacking end. Even when you hit 3 targets, the average damage that I've gotten out of chain lightning over multiple dungeons has been like around 25k like accumulative like damage for the average cast. And so that's like, you know, 1 hit crits and then the other 2 don't crit, and that's lower average damage than like Lava Burst on its own. Lava Burst with the 5-stack Maelstrom on a target that has Flame Shock on it, it's a guaranteed crit. It's averaging like 30k per cast. So for Maelstrom spending, like Lava Burst has a higher average damage output than Chain Lightning does across 3 targets for average damage per cast, as it currently stands. Maybe this changes before live, etc. But that's why, like, I feel like there should be something that helps like amplify Chain Lightning's damage when it's supposed to be like this core ability for enhancement, since it's our starting node and it's something that, you know, we have to have no matter what. I just feel like, you know, Chain Lightning could be made to be more impactful rather than this right here. What I personally would like to see, one of my only other things, you know, this is beating a dead horse. We've all talked about it. Everybody who's looked at the tree feels like Ascendance should swap with Primordial Wave. These nodes should swap. I think that's very common feedback that they'll hear throughout alpha until it happens. So, you know, swap those 2 things. But beyond that, I think Stormflurry does not belong in its current location. I actually think Stormflurry would be better suited moving here where Gathering Storms is, consolidate Gathering Storms into a 1 talent node for its full value, move Gathering Storms to where the Chain Lightning node is, remove the Chain Lightning node or find a different location for it and rework it into something else. But I think you could honestly just flat out remove the Chain Lightning node as it currently stands. But yeah, move Stormflurry to where Gathering Storms is, and then add a link from Stormbringer to Stormflurry, thus creating an alternative path as well down to Feral Spirits that does not force you to go through Crash Lightning in order to get to it. In that situation, like, you know, it's a 3-point investment right here just to get to the Feral Spirits. You know, I understand they want sacrifice, but like, that's a very negative sacrifice. Like, you lose so much value investing points into Gathering Storms just to get to Feral Spirits if you go this route, and I just don't see it happening. I think people are going to always go through here no matter what, because if you want an AoE option, people are going to go through Hailstorm and then through Stormflurry into Hot Hand into Feral Spirits every time, rather than going through Crash Lightning to Gathering Storms. You know, because this is an AoE and single target line, it's just beneficial through and through no matter what, whereas this is purely beneficial for a single target impact in ability through a forced AoE utility that, you know, in order for it to actually work, Crash Lightning being beneficial, you're never going to use it as a single target cast. Maybe if they made Crash Lightning more impactful for a single target situation as well, that this could be a better, like, you know, alternative pathing route. But right now, I just don't see anybody taking Gathering Storms. I think Gathering Storms would be better suited as a single point node directly under Crash Lightning, its own individual, you know, node on the talent tree, and having Stormflurry moved over to where Gathering Storms is and linked up with Stormbringer here, just, you know, giving more options to be able to go back towards the center of the tree. You know, opening up that flexibility and having more options isn't really a bad thing in terms of the design, you know, especially when you see a lot of the other trees. I mean, I feel like this is going to be a common thing. You know, everybody's going to look at a Voker tree and be like, oh, every single thing has a diagonal crosscut to it. And people are going to like that. Having flexibility to make choices is good rather than feeling forced down specific ways. As it currently stands, there's no way anybody's going to go back from the left side of the tree back towards the middle. From here, you have to go through this side, or you have to take Gathering Storms from the left side of the tree in order to go there. And so I think it'd just be nice to have that alternative. And Stormflurry just fits the thematic of everything, all the Storm Strike modifying damage coming from this side of the tree, as well as if Ascendance ended up being moved over here as well. It would be another talent that would make sense to, you know, branch directly down into Ascendance as well. And so, you know, then the question is, what would you place where Stormflurry is? You know, you could move Ice Strike there. You could move Swirling Maelstrom there. You could move something else there. Honestly, from any of these three options, heck, maybe just move Elemental Weapons there in that place instead. Because the only other thing that I have a problem with on the tree, it just in terms of a consistency situation, is Ice Strike's location. In order to make benefit of Swirling Maelstrom, you have to take Ice Strike no matter what. And it has synergy for use with Ice Strike and Fire Nova, but Ice Strike doesn't really have any functionality for Fire Nova, right? If you're somebody who ends up going Fire Nova as your option, you don't really have a reason to use Ice Strike, but you're still forced to take Ice Strike as an option in order to get this Swirling Maelstrom. So it's just an extra keybind that you're using specifically just for generating the Maelstrom, whereas when you take Hailstorm, Ice Strike has a dual purpose, making it a far more valuable button to have and press, because it is generating Maelstrom and it's amplifying the damage of your Frost Shock. So it just feels a little rough being forced to take Ice Strike if you go the Fire Nova route. I think it could be maybe better suited if, you know, you moved Ice Strike over here and then, you know, you could directly link to Swirling Maelstrom in some capacity, or something, or, you know, move Swirling Maelstrom here and have it be, you know, a cross link. You know, Ice Strike moves down and you can cross link it in some way. I don't know. This is the one part where I get a little, you know, torn on how I would make a change to the tree, but I still think Stormflurry would be better suited over here with instead of Gathering Storms. But overall, those are really the only problems I have with the tree. A couple things to note is, you know, a lot of the stuff on our talent tree doesn't work right now, so it's hard to really give too much feedback on it. They did increase the proc rate of Doom Winds from 75 to 80%, but Doom Winds still doesn't work at the moment. Legacy of the Frost Witch doesn't work. Witch Doctor's Wolfbones doesn't work. Alpha Wolves doesn't work. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that have questionable tuning right now. Elemental Blast, if you take it and socket it, it actually turns into Earth Shock right now. So Elemental Blast isn't working either. We don't know if this is going to be Elemental Blast like normal tooltip value as it currently stands. It could be higher, could be lower. Well, I don't think it'll be higher. If it was higher, it would be hitting insanely hard with 5 Maelstrom weapon stacks. So, you know, beyond that, overall, I think our tree is really well done. The play style right now, even with a lot of these things not working at the moment, the play style still feels good. It has nice flow to it. There's usually almost always something to press. Little to no downtime, and that's with things not working. And so, you know, I feel like right now the current situation for enhancement is actually very good. And I think we're going to have a very solid, consistent damage throughput playstyle as it currently stands with the way our tree is at this time. PvP side of things, this is where I think it gets a little more, our options get a little more constrained, because there's a couple things that, you know, healing is kind of like one of Enhancement Shaman's key ways of surviving. That's like one of our main defensives. And I just, you know, we all know it's going to happen. They're going to nerf the healing at some point. People are going to complain about hybrid healing, and our healing's going to get nerfed. And so at that point, then I worry about the survivability of our class with, you know, Astral Shift being our only defensive cooldown. You know, we have a lot of things that increase our max HP, with Brimming Life and our Earth Elemental, but I don't really, there's not a lot of things to mitigate damage from our kit. And with the limited talent points, we actually are a little tight for points in order to get a lot of different utility like Hex and taking any of the Hex options, because this is like, there's only a couple more points that we would have here. And, we don't have Thunderstorm for crowd control. We don't have Healing Stream Totem for increasing the healing right now, or Ancestral Guidance or Swirling Currents. Improved the Surging Shields talent for our Lightning Shield or anything like that. And, we would still need points for Tremor Totem for fear situations, improved Cap Totem for crowd control situations, Cleanse Spirit for removing curse effects, Hex, Purges. Like, there's still a lot of things that are on here that you would want to have for PvP that you may not be able to have. Maybe you want Stone Skin, and that requires you to go through Totemic Focus or down through Thunderstorm with Lightning Lasso, things like that. You just end up really tight on points, and you end up having to choose between the additional crowd control or a little bit more additional, healing survivability. And, maybe that's the choice that they want, but I do worry about defensive cooldown situations, because we all know healing is going to get nerfed. It always gets nerfed. Our healing on Enhancement Shaman always gets nerfed every time. And so, I do think our talent points do get a little strained when it comes to the tree, because there are definitely more nodes that you feel like you need or can make use of in PvP than PvE, right? You don't need Cleanse Spirit for PvE. You don't need Purge for PvE, but it is helpful on certain situations, with mobs that, have shield effects that pop up, and so it just becomes one of those tougher choice options type things. And I think that I think it'll be fine overall, but it's definitely, you're going to have to make a lot more tougher choices with the tree in PvP than you do PvE. PvE definitely feels much more comfortable and relaxed, and not as many difficult options needing to be made, and being able to be a little bit more flexible with your choices than you do for PvP as it currently stands. So we'll see there. Our tree for PvP, I think Enhancement's going to be great for its throughput damage. I think that we have good burst tools at our disposal with Ascendance and Thorum's Invocation, along with Doomwind's being its own cooldown now. Having those things with Wolves, I think we're going to have really good consistent damage, that's going to allow for us to have strong pressure, and then have a nice 3-minute cooldown for burst situations. But outside of that 3-minute cooldown, I don't think we're going to be like helpless type thing. So I'm pretty excited for seeing how we're going to end up working in PvP once we have everything working as well. But overall, again, I don't have too many complaints with our tree. I think overall our tree is pretty good, but aside from these two talent nodes and where Stormflurry's location is, overall I don't really have much to complain about. I think overall our tree is pretty well done, and I like our layout for the most part. And I'm looking forward to seeing if they make any adjustments or changes by the end of alpha going into beta. So definitely looking forward to that. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed our video, and if you want to catch us doing any Enhancement Shaman content on alpha or beta or live going forward, be sure to drop on over at twitch.tv/Sav. You can find us there. We are also in the Enhancement Shaman. We're in the Earth Shrine Discord, so if you have any questions, you can ask me there as well. If you have any comments or feedbacks, please leave them in the comments down below, and we'll do our best to respond to any of them. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next one.